My name is Nick B, and let's get into this week's futures overview. As always, starting with the Forex economic calendar. Monday, we have a pretty mute day. Tuesday, 8:30 a.m., we have employment cost index. At 10 a.m., we have consumer confidence. Okay, Wednesday is going to be the big day. 8:15 a.m. we have non-farm employment change. 8:45 we have final manufacturing PMI. 10 a.m. we have ISM manufacturing PMI. JOLTS job openings as well. Then at 2 p.m., 2:30 p.m. we have FOMC statement, FOMC press conference, Powell speaks. Thursday, 8:30 a.m. we have unemployment claims, and then Friday to finish it off we have non-farm payrolls and ISM services PMI. So it's going to be a pretty active week starting from Wednesday really. So let's jump right into it. Let's take a look at ES. Let's pull that up first, and let's get started. All right, let me clear this off. Let's start with the weekly, right? I know I have these levels here. We'll talk about them in a second. Let me clear them. All right. So let's start with what's been happening. Okay. So right away, first things first, what I'm going to mark off is the all-time highs, right? At 53.33, in terms of upside, in terms of definite continuation higher, you get a break of 53.33. You target 53.50, 53.80, 5400 is going to be that upside target, possibly maybe even 5500 we see into this year. We'll see. We'll get there when we get there, but a definite break of 53.33, that takes us higher. In terms of taking us lower, we have to breach the lows that we made just recently, which are 49.61. 49.61 is a pretty 49.60 really is a key area in terms of giving us direction. So right away on the weekly, we've identified two levels that give us definite direction. We're going to start breaking this down and we'll go deeper in on it. 1 second. 53.35. Let's make this yellow. Perfect. Well, how do we know where are we buying or where are we selling? What about what's going on in the meantime? Well, let's take a look at that. Right away, I do want to point out the 20-day EMA. It's at 5,017. That was originally kind of the first level of an indicator that I was using when we were coming down to the downside to see how far can we really take it. I thought 5,000 was about, the most we'll go, but, we came down towards a higher low of 49.60 and we bounced right off of it. And again, we're holding on the 20-day EMA. So, looking at this from a clear sighted view, it's either, we come down to the 20-day retested, bounce it and head higher, break below it, break below 49.60 and start to continue spilling over, or we slowly but surely retrace our steps back up towards 53.33, we break it and go higher, or again we'll see a rejection of those areas and we pull back lower. Let's start breaking this down on the smaller time frames. And again, the analysis that I'm kind of approaching this from is not really macro, not really fundamental. It's just of what can the price points tell me that I see. All right, so let's break this down to the 1 hour, daily, yearly, and let's start identifying what instigated this kind of spill over to the downside and what confirmed it. Right away, I needed to see a break of higher lows, and in order for us to see a short term kind of reversal to the downside, for me at least, I need to see a breakdown of two previous higher lows. That gives me downtrend. In an uptrend, I need to see a breakout of two previous lower highs to get me a continuation higher. In this case, when we started to spill over, my attention was turned to the higher lows. So right away we have 51.65 on the daily that we see 50.60, and below 50.60 we see 49.60 again, which was the bottom that we made back in the 19th. If we get a break of 49.60, no problem, and we stay below it, no problem. We can take that short, have a nice stop at 5,000. You can target, really as low as 48.70 as the first take profit. But if that is the road that we're going to take on and we begin spilling over, I would really target the base of 48.40 to the downside, and then below 48.40, really my attention would turn to 46.35. I understand it's a 200 point disparity. However, this was a very important level for ES. This was the all-time highs that we, not all-time highs, excuse me, 48.08 were the previous all-time highs, but this was kind of that original breakout that we've had. When was it? 3 years that we broke out of 3 years ago. We broke out of 46.30 right in these areas here, and we ended up, just continuing on higher, nothing but buying the dip, and we continued higher all the way towards 53.33. So I'd imagine that the buying would start to come in hand over fist in these areas. Again, I do want to consider 48.08 as a possibility because it was our previous all-time high, and it just so happens to line up to 48.40. But if 48.40 does end up spilling really below 4800, again, we can start looking at 4630 as a very interesting level. I've been eyeing this level since the beginning of the year, but again, it's too far to talk about it right now. Let's talk about the now, and we're going to take a look at kind of what's unfolding um, right now, because again, I do think we bottomed out for the meantime, heading to the downside. Okay, so we've identified what confirmed us breaking to the downside. That was the breakdown of 50.60. That gave us the green light to short. Clean down to 49.60. Clean 100-point move to the downside. That we ended up, closing above on the 100-day EMA, but we never even managed to break below it. And that quick reversal and us holding back above 50.60 is giving us that slight confirmation that, hey, maybe we do have that room right now to make that attempt to continue going higher. How would we confirm this? Well, we need to take a look at the 4 hour and the 1 hour to confirm the intradays. But just as this picture is up for now, this doesn't look short. I can't say this looks short. The only way this looks short is maybe if we breach below 50.21. But again, on the daily, these are your higher lows now. These were your lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower low. Your low basically at 49.61. And now you have higher lows. So that would have to break first, 50.22, and ultimately a break below 49.60 seals the deal for continuation to the downside. And again, everything here in between right now is timing. Ever since we identified 53.33 to the upside is guaranteed to the upside, and 49.60 spillover is guaranteed to the downside. Everything here is now about timing. So let's take a look at the intraday. Before we move on, my 20-day on the daily is at 51.38. My 50 is at 51.20, basically 51.19, and my 100-day is at 49.94, 5,000 basically. Okay, let's take a look at this on the 4 hour. I'll try to keep this quick. Wonderful. Okay, very wonderful. So as you've seen, as we were just talking about on the higher time frame, in order for us to see that short-term, reversal in trend, we needed to break below two previous higher lows. In that case, this was the area of 51.65, 51.70. That gave us that spill down towards, really gave us that spill down towards 51.20. And then below 51.20, we worked our way down towards 50.85 and 50.60, right? The intradays are painting a bit of a cleaner picture. But again, we broke below two previous higher lows. That confirmed the spill to the downside. And now we're kind of changing it around with the fact that we made a low at 49.61 and the fact that we are above the first previous lower high, which is over at 51.22. Not to mention price action is currently holding above Friday's high of 51.30, 51.28 area. So let's see if we can manage to get above on the intraday. I would say, really, I mean, if you get above 51.50, you're going to have room to come up towards 5200 easy. I'm going to remove these two levels here because these are previous higher lows. And again, we look at higher lows in terms of targets when we're looking at price action going to the downside. Because we took out the first previous lower high, that's the first start to a possible trend reversal. For us to confirm kind of the continuation to the upside, really you got to get above 52.20, 52.14, 52.10, get above 52.10. Get above that, we can talk about going higher. 52.20, excuse me, I'm sorry. 52.20 breaks, we can talk about going higher. Um, possibly towards 53.33, but we'll talk about that set of challenges in a moment. Let me go ahead and get rid of these higher lows because that is not our focus now. Our focus is going to be lower highs because we're retracing kind of the move to the upside now. So it's going to be our first target, right? You can go along here, target 52.20, no issue. I'm actually going to go ahead and set an alert here for myself. 52.12 is fine. Now, once that alert goes off, I'm going to look at the possibility of revisiting the lower highs of 52.50. Above 52.50, I am looking at 52.85. Above 52.85, we're looking at 5300, 5310 basically. Above 5310, we're looking at 53.33. Let's talk about probabilities. First lower high, second lower high. This is your confirmation area that you can possibly continue higher. If you miss it, you're more at risk of getting shaken out of the trade rather than you seeing it to continuation or you securing some profits before price decides to play a funny game. Again, on the intraday, this could confirm that continuation, 52.20, because it is the second lower high on the intraday. And when we break above two lower highs in a downtrend, that confirms we're probably going to continue upwards now, right? So with that said, be careful in these areas. You know for a fact you're going to go higher above 53.33, and you know for a fact you're going to go lower below 49.60. The in between is when we rely on the intraday, lower highs, higher lows, and depending on what side price is on in terms of trend, we have to adjust to kind of that scale that I use of higher highs, higher lows, lower highs. So again, just to repeat, the reason why this is still a valid area to go long at 52.20 if you're not long here with a tight stop is you can set your stop at 51.50, risk 50 points, but you have all these increments to target to the upside. You have above 52.20, you have 52.50. So you can guarantee yourself, 20 points to the upside. And then if 52.50 begins to stutter, slow down, okay, maybe close it. Maybe look for re-entry. But if you're savage and you think you can swing it through, just as long as you're holding 5200 on ES and you have a stop somewhere below 5200, you could see that continuation all the way up to 53.33 as long as it holds that. So that's with ES. And again, we covered the downside. I wouldn't be so quick to want to short below, the first lower high or so quick to short below 50.20 because it's not a guarantee you'll get that continuation. Guarantees are when you take out the lows, like for example, 49.61. 49.60 comes, okay, you get that confirmation. So that's with ES. Let's finish up with NQ. Okay, wow, I spent a lot of time on that. I'm sorry. I'll buzz by a little bit quicker with NQ because NQ is going to be a little bit simpler. Boom. Okay. All right. So we are on the 3-year weekly. Okay, so 16,787 or 67 it was. That was the last previous all-time high. Similar to how 4800 was 4808 on ES, 16,767 is NQ. Ways away from it, right? In terms of downside, we can assume this is going to be that target, but just like 4630 for ES was that breakout that we never came back around to, 16,050 is that breakout on NQ that we, air quotes, never came back around to. So that would be kind of the ultimate bloodbath if we were to revisit the areas. And this would be, kind of the floor that we're currently in as long as we hold above it. But at the same time, on the weekly, I do see we are above my 20-day EMA, and that happens to be at 17,550, 548 area. Okay. Okay, so I don't think we're going to revisit this area anytime soon yet, and the reason is the same as ES's. If short term the trend was pulling us to the downside, but now we are in the areas of beginning a breakout of the first lower high and holding supports and holding our previous session highs from Friday into today. What are the odds we don't continue higher, right? This is a probability scheme. So let's take a look at this on the daily. Okay, now there's a lot of mumbo jumbo here going on in the daily. And again, similar to what we looked at on ES, let's take a look at how it started, why the spill started to the downside, just technicals in terms of technicals. And then we can take a look at how or why we are retracing price action back to the upside. So I'm going to go ahead and just take out that previous, all-time high because we don't really want to focus on that for now. 18709 all-time highs, right? Because we're looking for something that we know, is going to give us a certain direction, whether it breaks out or not. So 18709, that breaks. I know it's going to go to 19,000. We use round number theory. We work our way towards 18.8, 18.9, but really 19,000 would be my target to the upside. I'm going to make this yellow because, again, this is a guarantee. Well, to me, in my eyes, a level with certainty that can take us in a specific direction. That's upside. Now, what would be downside? For me, I would say it would be the fact that we got to the lows right here of 17,122, just so happened to be the base platform of 17,165. 17,165 was a really, really important support resistance level for like the next 2 months. So the fact that we came down there and still managed to close, on the next candle above that area without us piercing a breakdown, well, most likely that's going to be the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and plot it on the wick. And now I know below 17,122, I can tell you with a certainty we're going lower. We're probably going to come down towards 16,700 easy. Below 16,700, we're probably going to come down to 16,350. Below 16,350, we have that base of 16,050 to worry about next, right? Which was the start of this bull run. I'm going to say 1650 and 4630 were literally the start of kind of that confirmation that, hey, this is now a bull trend. We're probably going to, go higher here. And 4808 and 16,767, it kind of sealed the deal. All right, enough yapping. Let's talk about now direction, right? Okay, so we know we're going to go higher above here. We know we're going to go lower here. Why did we start spilling here and what's happening now? Okay, as quickly as I can. First higher low, second higher low, third higher low, fourth higher low. In order for us to for us to catch that first kind of possible trend reversal is we get a break of 18,000. That's the first higher low. Second higher low breaks, boom, that's a confirmation of now a short-term trend reversal, and you have the green light to target the next or the previous higher lows, which is exactly what we did. Down to 17,377. 380 really was that target. Below 17,380, we came down. I was expecting 17,210, but they wanted to really stick the screwdriver in me and twist it a little bit, so they gave me 100 points more to the downside than I asked for. Cool. Whatever. Okay, so the 100-day on the daily now is at 17,482. My 20-day EMA is at 17,880, which is signal entry price, and 17,900 is my 50. Wonderful. Okay. So we understand what we broke down in order for us to come down to where we are. And because we could not fully pierce and close below this low of 17,122, or even on the second attempt last week that we tried to get below 17,122, we needed to get and hold below 17,380. Price could not do it. The candle itself closed right above 17,380, gave us the green light that, hey, maybe we might begin retracing our moves towards the previous lower highs, and maybe we're about to see another short-term trend reversal because, again, we could not see more room to the downside. You had the VIX now closing on Friday at 2-week lows. So, geopolitical issues, most times they don't last too long on the market in terms of noise. So let's take a look at this on the 4 hour. And again, because now we understand why we came down to the certain levels that we did and it gave us the direction that we did, we can take these out, we can clear these levels out, and we can do the same thing, but now we're looking at lower highs. Again, the reason for that is we could not continue lower. And again, the confirmation for that on the intraday for us is going to be, did we get above our lower highs? And we did. Here is our first lower high over at 17, basically 17,750. Let's put it that way. Once we were able to retrace our move, come up to 17,750, notice the first time around we try to get above it, right? We had this wick. This is a fundamental wick, by the way, 17 what 793, and then we ended up spilling over, coming down towards as low as 17,308, only to bounce back up, break above it, retest the breakout, hold it, act like it's not really a breakout, but then in the end, when was this? The 26th, which was that Friday. I think it was PCE. Yes, it was PCE that gave us that dip. And then we bounced right off of 670, got back above 700, and then, prices never looked back. And we're back above Friday's session highs of 17,830, basically. Okay. What are the facts here? Well, the fact is we are above the first lower high. Well, Nick, what about this area here? Isn't this a lower high over at 17,550? Well, I would say it was, and it did serve as a very important support resistance level. Well, excuse me, a support level on the daily and the weekly. And once we were able to get back above it, it proved that we can and do have the strength to go higher. But the reason I'm not focusing or giving it too much attention is these are noise candles. That's one. And two, this is technically on the intraday our first higher low after making our lows at 17,111. Is this 17,113? I believe it was. 17,113, right? So we had another wick over here. I think this was a news wick as well on the 22nd, or towards the end of the 22nd. Might have been a fundamental news event here. It might have been earnings. I don't remember. But the fact is, we got down to 17,146, but they could not get us below 17,113. And in turn, we started to just retrace our moves to the upside. So, yes, it took over this one lower high, but again, the fact that this is the area where we formed the first higher low for a possible short-term reversal, I don't want to rely on this as my trend confirmation. However, I will take a chance at going long over here or above these areas, targeting the second higher low, because I know for a fact now, judging by what we've seen with previous higher lows, if and when we do get above 17,960, look what you got. It's the same thing as ES. So ES above its, current highs, it's going to go to 5150, and then above 5150, you have all that room to 5200 that we just went over. Same thing with NQ. We're going to get above the lower highs of 960. It's going to give us a little bit of room to come up towards 18,000, 1850. And look at that. Above 1850, you have nothing stopping you from coming up to 18,350. I would really like to catch that move here. A break of 18,350 to go long, I rather look to go long if you get a break of it and then you dip, go long, and then you ride that out. Because again, similar to ES, once you're past that certain point of confirming a breakout of a lower high, again, all that means is it's just confirming that direction is going to go up now. You're still going to be in the environment of timing until you get a precise, move where you can get above 18,709 and you're going higher. The reason I say you don't know in these levels is because you don't. Usually, well, not usually, but on the big picture, I say that because we're just looking at what the best probabilities are for us now, considering the setup is coming to fruition now. We are close to getting the confirmation and continuation to the upside now. But this is already going to be talks of after. The move already unfolded, so this is already the after talk. And I understand on the intraday, if the opportunity presents itself, maybe you can go for a few points in between. I'm not knocking it, it's totally doable. You can have, a daily goal limit of 20 points here, 30 points here. Fine, cool. But it's timing. I don't know how else to put it without not sugarcoating it. It's timing. You're not going to know what's going to really direction it's going to take on until you get the clearance and until you work up the confidence to take the shots at certain setups. I'm just going over what kind of the cleaner, the safer, I guess, scenarios that I see that give me certainty and that make me want to trade. Um, with that said, I hope you have a solid and a wonderful trading week ahead. I hope you gain plenty of points and don't rush. Keep it simple. Cheers, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.